Welcome to Tartan and Thistles on Alive with Susan Power, the heart of Scottish music and song.
Opening the show, we have Ronnie Kennedy with the Bluebell Polka. Hello, I'm Susan and you're listening to Tartan and Thistles on Alive. Tonight's theme, we have apples, cheats, bells, pieces, jelly pieces, and pets. Tonight's theme is school. There we have it, Ronnie Kennedy, Bluebell Polka, and it was from the album Those Were the Days. Next up, we have a dance, The Apple Tree. Bill Black and his Scottish dance band is here to play from his Sounds of the Perthshire Glens. Scottish dance band there, playing for the dance The Apple Tree. Right, it's time for a song. And Robert Love, from his album Generations of Change, is here to sing The Village Where I Went to School.
Now I've travelled the world and I've heard people say, funny how life just slips away. But I knew that I'd come back here someday to the village where I went to school. In the corner of a field there's There's a big oak tree, it's been growing there before you and me. I carved my name for all to see in the village where I went to school. Now I sit on the grass on a winter's morn. Sometimes I wish that I'd never been born. In second-hand clothes that were tattered and torn, in the village where I went to school. Where are they now? Some went o'er the sea, and once came back to the village like me. There's a smell of bread from the baker's shop, a little store where we bought our pop. The coalman's old horse goes clippity-clop in the village where I went to school. Yes, I've many treasured memories, like the time when all the school caught fleas, and the orchard where we climbed those trees in the village where I went to school. Now I've come back home and I reminisce, and I look around at the things I've missed. When the sun comes up on the place we first kissed, on the village where I went to school. Like the old village stream, the water goes on. Some folks have stayed, but the others have gone. Now I look around and I'll find me a wife. I've had my share of troubles and strife, but it's here I'll spend the last years of my life, in the village where I went to school. In the village where I went to school.
Robert Love there. What a lovely song, The Village Where I Went to School. Next up we have Simon Fraser University Pipe Band here, with the well-known poem of Robert Burns, which was turned into a song. It's live at Carnegie Hall and it's a mucking of Geordie's Briar. Simon Fraser University Pipe Band from the album Live at Carnegie Hall. If you joined us last week, you'd know that our whole show was a tribute to Ian Holmes's tunes. So this week we have The College Hornpipe by Ian Holmes' Scottish Dance Band from the album Let's Dance in Strict Tempo. Scottish dance band with the college hornpipe. Well, did you ever cheat on your tests or homework at school? Believe it or not, I was a model pupil. I'd never dare cheat. So next up, it's The Last Cheater's Waltz with Charlie Cowie from the album Unsquare Dance. before there, the George Bale polka. It's time for our back-to-back track. This week we have Jimmy Shand Jr. and Sir Jimmy Shand. Who liked English at school? The first track is Newcastle English Country Dance from the album The Sound of Shand. And the second one, bet you all love the bell at the end of the day, it's Waltz of the Bells from Jimmy Shand's album Waltzing Through the Years.
dates for your diary on Tartan and Thistles with Susan Power.
Okay, the dates for the diary. Starting off on Monday, 14th of July, 7:30, Sky Accordion and Fiddle Club is at AGM in the Royal Hotel Buttree. Tuesday the 15th, and every Tuesday at Seg Hill Traditional Music Group, 7:30 till 10. It's free entry, bar and raffle, and you take your own instruments along for a tune, and listeners welcome also. On Wednesday the 16th, 7:30, Edinburgh Open House Ceilidh in the British Legion Hall. On Thursday the 17th, it's Tynedale Accordion and Fiddle Club at 7 o'clock. It's the Liam Stewart Trio. Friday the 18th, it's a fundraising Ceilidh and Caol Community Centre. Now, I don't know if I'm saying this correct, it's spelled Caol. Music by Roddy Matthews and Alan Small. £10 for adults, kids free, there's a bar, and there'll be a raffle. Sunday the 20th at Milnathorpe Town Hall, 2 o'clock till 5, there's music by George Rennie, £5 entry, all money goes to charity, and you get your tea and biscuits. Also Sunday the 20th, Nicky McMeekin and the band will be at Mid Annandale Comrades Club in Lockerbie, 2 o'clock till 5pm. All dancers and all listeners welcome, and that's £8 for your ticket. And that's everything for this week. If you have a date for the diary you'd like to include on the show, then please email Tartan and Thistles, that's the word and, A-N-D, Tartan and Thistles @gmail.com, or find us on Facebook, simply Tartan and Thistles.
When I was young and went to school, they taught me how to write, to take the chalk and make a mark and hope it turned out right. That's the way it is with love, and what you did to me. I wrote it so you'd know that I was yours eternally, but my tears have washed I love you from the blackboard of my heart. It's too late to clean the slate and make another start. I'm satisfied the way things are, and though we're far apart, my tears have washed I love you from the blackboard of my heart. If you'd been true the way you should, and not have gone astray, these tears would not have fallen down and washed the words away. No need to talk, but if the chalk should write these words again, it will be for someone else, not things that might have been. But my tears have washed I love you from the blackboard of my heart. It's too late to clean the slate and make another start. I'm satisfied the way things are, and though we're far apart, my tears have washed I love you from the blackboard of my heart. But my tears have washed I love you from the blackboard of my heart. It's too late to clean the slate and make
another star. I'm satisfied the way things are, and though we're far apart, my tears have washed I love you from the blackboard of my heart. My tears have washed I love you from the blackboard of my heart.
The fine voice of the late Derek Hamilton with The Blackboard of My Heart. When you finally were a school leaver, did you feel a sense of freedom? Well, our next march is John Nicholson's March to Freedom, followed by the Leper's Bell and Kenny MacDonald of Cromwell Street from the album Behind the Name. Here's Blair Douglas to play it for you.
Sunday.
something a little bit different there. Royal Scots Dragoon Guards with the Bells of Dunblane. And that was from the album Tartan Chill Out. Right, it's Apple for the Teacher time. The Highest Apple. And it's a waltz played by Tom Orr and the band from the album Off the Beaten Track. Tom Orr Band, The Highest Apple. Right, Steam Jenny is here now to sing one of her favourite songs. I hope you're all going to join in here. It's the Geely Peace Song.
I'm the skyscraper ween, I live on the 19th floor, but I'm no gone out to play anymore. 'Cause since we moved to Castlemilk, I'm wasting away, 'cause I'm getting one less meal every day. Oh, you can't find pieces out a 20-story flat. 700 hungry winds, I'll testify to that. If it's got a cheese or chili, if the breed is plain a pan, the odds against it reaching out are 1991. On the first day my ma flung me a dod o' Hovis broom. I came skiting out the windy and went up instead of down. Now every 27 hours it comes back into sight, 'cause my piece went into orbit and became a satellite. Oh, you can't find pieces out a 20-story flat. 700 hungry winds will testify to that. If it's got a cheese or chili, if the beef is plain or pan, the odds against it reaching out are 1991. On the second day, my ma flung me a piece out once again. It went and cut the pilot of a low-flying plane. He scraped it off his goggles, shouting through the intercom. The Clydeside winds have brought me way a bleeding chili bomb. Oh, you can't find pieces out a 20-story flat. 700 hungry winds will testify to that. If it's got a cheese or chili, if the breed is plain or pan, the odds against it reaching out are 1991. On the third day my ma thought she'd have another go. The Salvation Army band were standing down below. Onward Christian soldiers was the piece they should have played, but the Oompa man was playing on a piece in marmalade. Oh, you can't find pieces out a 20-story flat. 700 hungry winds will testify to that. If it's got a cheese or chili, if the breed is plain or pan, the odds against it reaching out on 1991. We've got away to Oxfam to try and get some aid, and Godwins and Castlemilk have formed a peace brigade. We're gonna march to George's Square demanding civil rights, like nae mair hooses oor peace flinging height. Oh, you can't find pieces out a 20-story flat. 700 hungry winds will testify to that. If it's got a cheese or chili, if the breed is plain or pan, the odds against it reaching out on 1991. Oh, you can't find pieces out a 20-story flat. 700 hungry winds will testify to that. If it's got a cheese or chili, if the breed is plain or pan, the odds against it reaching out are 1991.
Brilliant there, Gilly Peace song. Right, we have Ali Bain and Phil Cunningham next. The Wee Bells o' Tick Medown Road, and that's from the album The Ruby. back to the last track of the show. Thank you for keeping me company, and I hope you can all join me next week here on Tartan and Thistles, same time, same place. Were you ever the teacher's pet? I'm going to leave you with Ian McPhail, and he's playing for the Dans, Pet o' the Pipes. Hope you all have a good week. Take care.